good evening. We have two professionals on the line, and we are talking about the monthly topic for the month of April called change management. And that is definitely a key component in many engineering companies, many companies in general. And we have two awesome people on the call today to interview and to get their perspectives. And hopefully, our members will benefit from their wisdom this evening. So we thank you for joining today. So before we get started with the actual questions, I would like each of you to state your name, your position, a company and industry that you work for. And of course, no offense to Jared, but I'll start with the ladies first. Uza.
Sure. So I'm Uzoa Darwichzada. I'm the Gulf Region Vice President for Sales in the utility segment. And I work for Eaton Corporation. So we're an diversified industrial company, but I specifically work in our electrical sector and supporting the sales team selling into the utility vertical.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. And Jared.
Hi, I'm Jared Morgan, Senior Advisor to Harris County in elections or election administration. It's my first time in government, and I've been here for about 7 months. Typically have a background in commercial commodities and oil and gas.
Wow, very interesting background, Jared. We are looking forward to hearing more about that. Not many engineers do that type of pivot or transition, so that's very interesting. So, Jared, how did you get into this line of work?
So change management, I found that coming back to Houston. So I'm from Houston, went to school, undergrad in Florida, and then went to grad overseas, came back and started working for Johnson Johnson in a more of it was a global operations program, but more or less project management, and was searching for a way to bring my skills back to Houston and ran across a woman named Takesha Racing, and she introduced me to change management. It was everything that I loved about project management without the stuff I hate about project management. And I dove head in, and I've been very happy with the type of things that I've been able to be a part of in my career. And so that's how I got started. But I came over to government when a friend of mine asked me to leave corporate America. He accepted a position as the head of elections and thought that one of the things that were missing was that they didn't have a management consulting type of background or understanding. And so I brought a lot of that kind of corporate strategy stuff to government. And so that's how I ended up here, and I'm still here.
Awesome, awesome. And Uza, how did you get into this line of work?
Sure. So I've been with my company for it'll be 18 years actually in July. But I started as a manufacturing engineer in their leadership development program in the automotive sector. And so that was actually my first foray into change management and kind of the true sense when we think about like manufacturing, because in that role, I went into quality and OpEx, operational excellence, and I really kind of fell in love with that function and just what goes with just operational excellence, continuous improvement, obviously change management, and actually stayed in it kind of in the automotive world. And in that role, I went from manufacturing engineer to quality supervisor, and then I was a production supervisor, and then I was a quality and OpEx manager for one of our plants in North Carolina. And so that kind of, it's interesting because just early in my career, that kind of ended up weaving itself, I think, through all of the roles that I took after that. You know, since then, I've definitely done some pivots with the same company. I've done an HR role managing our leadership development program. I've been in inside sales as an inside sales manager. I ran business. I've been a plant manager, business ops manager. So in all of those roles, I think having that early start in continuous improvement which of course is change management at its core, has kind of been woven into all of the roles that I've had over my almost 18 years with Eaton.
Interesting. You must have started when you were 12.
I did.
And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Monique Lake from of course, NSBE Process Improvement SIG, and I serve as Communications Director this year. So I just wanted to get that out the way. Awesome. Wonderful backgrounds. I just love doing this. Love doing this interview. Awesome.
Thank you.
So Jared, what lessons have you learned along the way in your respective career?
Um, I love to champion or promote the cause of being able to understand very technical processes and terms, whether it's flow charts, you name it, or unpacking processes to make them more improved. Um, and I would say the lessons I learned over the time is that the person that can be a very effective conduit between those two entities of the business per se and the more technical side is golden. The other thing too is you got to prove what you say, right? So you can't go into many rooms with a lot of assumptions. You need to have data. Data is my best friend. I try to come with all types of ways to dissect and understand data. I believe data tells a story. I don't think data is mundane. So if you approach from that perspective, that data is not mundane and that it can reveal some stories and some action items that can improve whatever it is and whatever sector that you're in or whatever group that you're in, I think that you will be considered a voice of reason. You'll be considered a champion of someone who finds solutions. And when you get into those spaces, I think you'll see your career will catapult.
Definitely. Very, very, very good points. So, Uza, back to you. What lessons have you learned along the way in your career so far?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I agree. I think everything that Jared said is spot on. And I think the only thing that I would probably add to that is you've got to always be willing to learn and evolve, right? So even if you're the technical expert or you know the function, you know the business, you know the operations, you've got to always create a space that allows people to share information, and then you yourself as the leader, the manager, whatever, project manager, whatever it is your role is, you have to be willing to listen and see if there's some areas where you need to evolve your approach and some of the things that you see. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent points as well. So, Uza, if you were able to give yourself about your line of work, what would it be?
If I was to give myself advice,
Yes, yes. If you were talking, as
um,
you say, if you were talking to your younger self.
if I was talking to my younger self, oh my goodness gracious. Especially I
She's
think
talking.
because
She's
of
talking to her now.
I know.
I'm, I'm telling you, man, we need to have this every day. This is like a little like morale and ego boost. I
No,
love it. You guys are the
that's
best.
wonderful.
But I would say you don't know what you don't know. I think for me, if I was giving advice to myself, right, because if I look at even my career, again, I've been with the same company. So Jared, it's so interesting because when I heard that I was going to be doing this with you and I saw your background, you could ask Brian, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. Like he's in government, like that's so interesting, right? Because I don't interact with anyone, but you just don't know, right? And so you have to be open to different experiences, even if they're different from kind of the path that you saw, especially when you're straight out of college with your fresh engineering degree and, you see yourself doing this, and this. It can take a completely different path if you're open, and that path can be so incredible, what you can learn and what you can share if you open yourself up to different opportunities and experiences.
Yes, I've learned that myself through all my
Mhm.
transitions. So and there's been
Mhm.
what would you tell your younger self and give yourself advice along the way in your experiences?
Um, Yeah, I would say it actually goes back to some old adage advice from my father. Like I would say, this professor is difficult, and he would say, "Who told you that?" So I would say such and such, and he would go, "That determines what you know and what you will experience." And
Right.
so it challenges that piece of it. And so when we're talking about exploring new boundaries, places that aren't necessarily comfortable. I'm very, very comfortable in the unknown because I
Mhm.
know that I get to start from scratch and I can try to cover as many gaps as possible. When I
Mm.
already think I know, that's usually where the pitfalls come
Mm.
from, right? And so I've always immersed myself in terms of that base ground understanding. So I would say that the advice I would give myself is um, check what others are saying, right? Like, don't listen to just one person. Don't listen to one aspect. Sure, their aspect could be valid to them, right? And their experiences are valid to them, but that may not go the same way for you. And so try to look at the positives, what you have to gain, hone in on that, and make sure you hold yourself accountable to achieving those gains. But yeah, that's what I would say is not to listen to one or two advice. Get as much of a well-rounded understanding on all accounts too, right? Like not just the level you're seeking, but the top level, the bottom level, get all of it in
Mhm.
between and really understand what you get yourself into.
Very, very good advice. Very good advice. So, Uza, what do you believe so far is your greatest contribution to your area of focus?
Um, so, oh gosh. I mean, I would definitely say that for me, at least in my kind of day to day work, if I think about my greatest contribution, it oftentimes is because of all those different experiences. So I'm answering it kind of from the perspective of working at Eaton and my job. Because of the fact that I've had the benefit of working in different businesses, seeing it from the operations side, seeing it from the commercial side, seeing the human side of it. It allows me to be able to kind of one share best practices, right? Because oftentimes we think, oh no, my industry is so unique, and I'm always like, oh, it's not really as unique as you think it is. We tend to have similar problems, similar issues, and there's a lot of value that people who maybe haven't worked in your industry can bring to the table if you open it up. And so I think that's probably the biggest contribution that I have oftentimes with my team is having had those perspectives, and I'm able to provide that coaching and feedback to my team or bring in nuggets, as we would call best practices from other areas that we don't normally think, right? We always think, oh no, this is so unique. And we don't see that there are opportunities for us to learn from others, even if it's a different industry or different group. And so I'm able to kind of bring that where it makes sense.
Awesome. Very, very good. Very good strategy there. So, Jared, what do you consider to be your greatest contribution? You've had some career changes along the way, so I'm sure you have a lot to draw on as far as contributions to your career.
Yeah, I echo the initial statements from my esteemed co-host. It's our co-guest. It's about bringing in that perspective of everything that you learned in each position is something that you can take with you to the next one. And then you should also, you know, be a part of some industry clusters, right? Like, so for example, I sit on the board for ACMP, which is the Association of Change Management Practitioners here in Texas. And so I want to shamelessly plug that to my other co-host. If she's not a member, we should get her in there. But change management comes from like two school of thoughts, right? Or at least you'll hear corporations talk about it in two ways. One, IT, which is a very technical change management type of program. And then you have the people side, which
The
I
people
would
side,
say
yeah.
management consulting probably brought enough, brought more awareness to the industry. But yeah, I would say my greatest contribution is bringing my different lenses as a solution opportunity. I've seen a lot of different things in terms of issues, and it's amazing how much of that translates across industries. It really does. And then the other side too is I harp on this, but it's data. I came into a lot of companies thinking, if I read an article here or there, that's enough. It's not. You got to have data to prove what you're talking about. And so as you become more sophisticated in your data in terms of setting up different things, and making sure that you don't have um, unforeseen consequences and things of that nature. I think that you will vote yourself as a trusted partner within your organization. So yeah, like I would say that that's probably my greatest gift, is literally being a people person and taking data and translating it to that.
Those are excellent pieces that go across industry level. I've even seen that in my own journey, using those two things in almost everything that I have, done in life. So I can definitely see how that's very important. So Uza, briefly, uh, describe your greatest strength and opportunity. What do you consider those things to be at this point?
So I would say probably one of my greatest strengths would be just learning agility, adaptability, and just, you know, certainly openness to doing something different and trying to get as much out of it and come up to speed pretty quickly. And then for me, and I do think that this has, of course, has a lot to do with change management. We talked about the people side of it. I really enjoy coaching, mentoring, developing, cultivating talent. And so that is certainly something. And a lot of what we're talking about is woven into that, right? You have to be able to kind of understand where people are coming from, meet them where they're at to help as you're trying to drive changes and so forth. And so that is, I would say, my strength. And then as far as opportunity, I mean, I think there's much more that I can learn. Again, I'm just from even this meeting alone, and just I'm like, okay, I'm like, you're gonna have to tell me again that organization so I can go look it up and see. So I think just all of the different, like you said, industry associations and so forth. There's just so many more that I can learn. I know for me on a personal level, as I think about, change and so forth. One of my areas that I'm specifically also continuing to develop is when we talk about change for strategy, right? So you're building a new strategy, for example, maybe it's a completely new market, new product. These are some of the things that we're going through right now. So for me, again, all change management and everything, right? That's a big change if an organization is looking to pivot into a different market that is completely new technology. And so that's something that we're doing right now. So that's an opportunity for me to continue to develop that. How do you make those kinds of changes, especially when it's kind of forward looking? You don't have a lot of the history. You may not have a lot of the data because it's something that is completely new. And then how do you pull your team along, right? When they still got to accomplish your day to day. So that's definitely the one area, one opportunity for me that I'm continuing to work on and develop.
Awesome. And Jared, what would you consider to be your greatest strength and opportunity at this point and going into the future?
Um, yeah, I think my greatest strength is being able to strip processes and find gaps. Um, a lot of times with the curse of repetition or repetitive nature or tasks is that you don't see the gaps. And so I'm huge on detangling. I love to detangle, or even in some cases on the IT side of change, I like to tangle things up. But I would say those are my greatest. My areas of opportunity. I'm gonna just be flat out. I need to do more for diversity. I think I do a decent job of recruiting, but I need to do more in the space of um, retention. I think I have not really had an opportunity to focus on that in any organization, and I want to develop those skills more. How to take someone and let them see where their pathway could be, and make sure that pathway is logical, makes sense, and is something that's achievable. And so that's probably my next great frontier, is being a piece of that, because I want to make sure I'm holding companies that I work for accountable, and make sure that they're walking the talk.
Exactly. Yes. And that is very important in the world that we live in now, to embrace more of that diversity in many platforms. So
Mhm.
very, very good point. So Uz, I'll come back to you. Our last question. Briefly, how did you get involved with NSBE, and in what ways has the organization helped elevate your career?
Sure. So I got involved with NSBE in college, and I was a member. Then I was a treasurer at our local chapter, and went on to region academic chair and so forth. And so that was my early involvement. And it's so long ago, but I want to say that I may have even been recruited by Eaton at the NSBE national conference. Certainly, of course, I attended all the national conferences and so forth. And so yeah, so it's very, very early. It was kind of, when I think about even professional kind of leadership roles, with the treasurer role and so forth, those were my first experiences, right? So kind of when we talk about some of the things that we're talking about now, and you think about your career over that time, those were kind of my early experiences into kind of building what I would later parlay into my career. And so that was my start. And so obviously NSBE holds a dear spot in my heart because of that. And I know that that's the case for just about everyone who's part of NSBE.
So Jared, back to you. How did you get involved in NSBE, and how has the organization helped shape your career?
I think so. I'm a member of National Black MBA, and I
Mhm.
think NSBE or some members of NSBE had came to an event and heard me speak and asked that I come to a NSBE event and speak, right? And I'm going to be a little bit more biased here. Like the the space in which engineers need to get to be, leaders and a part of the new generation of moving things forward is much shorter than a lot of the other majors out here. And so I also lean toward math and science people. It's my love. It's what I'm naturally, disposed to do. And so I click with those people more. And so to give them some of the soft skills or some of the professional skills that they may not know or have, to make them the kind of I guess have the skyrocketing careers that they can have is just a joy. And so I love to speak to people who have the technical understanding, because the soft stuff I can teach you very easily. It's navigating corporations is not necessarily the most difficult. The part that's most difficult you've already mastered. And so that's been my experience with NSBE, and I love what NSBE is about, and I love what NSBE pushes.
Well, awesome. Well, I just wanted to take a few minutes to just thank you both for this awesome opportunity to get your knowledge and feedback. And I'm sure that our process improvement membership and even membership outside of the SIG will definitely benefit from your expertise today. So we thank you so much for your time and for your space here.
Can I say one more piece?
Oh, yes. Go right ahead,
Okay.
Jared.
So the one thing too that I've noticed in my travels is that I call it the so what. And so a lot of times we can do a lot of background and data analysts and data analytics and even process analytics in a sense. Um, but the answer always comes back to so what. And you have to get very succinct on answering so what. If you don't feel comfortable answering so what, then you need to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Go to your mentors, go to people that support you in your career, people you look up to in your industry, and find the so what. The so what is always important. If you can't answer the so what, though, you've wasted an hour of time.
That is critical. And,
Yeah.
I've done a few of these interviews with other professionals in our series. And I think you're the first person, Jared, to kind of just narrow down into that concept. And
It, it
it's
might have
critical.
been because I had a frustrating meeting today. So that might have been the cause, but yeah, it was on my mind. So I wanted to share. I'm sorry. Thank you though.
So it was at the tip of your tongue in the meeting. You just wanted to say the so what.
Just talking and talking, and I'm like, I know what their so what is, right? Because I can follow the train of thought, but the fact that they just wouldn't hit on it bothered me. So
Yes, like I said, critical component, and words of wisdom for sure. So, like I said, thank you so much, both of you, for your time this evening.